It was the Mavericks drafting Cooper Flagg, number one in the NBA draft. This isn't Cooper Flagg Day. It's Cooper Flagg Week. Let's be fair. It's Flagg Week. So good morning, David. Thanks for popping on with us.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So your first impression of Cooper when he first walked on campus was what?
You know, you get to see him in summer workouts and stuff before they get into the official practices before the season begins. And obviously you see the ability, you see the length and all that stuff that comes with the raw talent that he has. But the first thing that honestly jumped out to me, you know he's 17 years old, you know he reclassified to get into college a year early, was how much he was just kind of a guy who likes to be in the gym and likes to be around basketball and loves playing with his teammates and that sort of stuff. That was obvious right from the jump. But like he's good at the interview stuff. He's good at all the external stuff that goes around it, but he just loves basketball. He loves practicing. He loves everything that goes with being a part of a team. And I think that's what Dallas got. In addition to obviously generational talent, they got a guy that's immediately going to have a huge impact on their locker room.
So we've heard a lot of people from, I think Coach K said it, Jay Billis said it, that this is the best Duke player ever. Like, I know you weren't there in the 90s, or best Duke freshman ever, I guess. Is that?
So I was going to put a caveat on that. Grant Hill might have something.
Yeah, right? So, like, because, even Grant as a freshman, I mean, they won the title that year. Now, he was not, they had later in Hurley, too. But is that basically the consensus that he's the best Duke freshman of all time?
Yeah, I mean, and from a freshman standpoint, and look, I've been doing the games the last 8 years, and obviously Zion was this unique thing that came through with his power, and Banchero, and we've seen what he's doing with Orlando. But in terms of a complete player as a freshman, I'd obviously have to agree. There's been no one like Cooper. I'm sure you guys have already run through it, basically led the team in every statistical category a year ago. I think he had one fewer blocks than Maluach did, but obviously he missed the ACC tournament, probably would have led that category as well. Just the way he does everything on both ends of the floor is very unique, and it's something that, you asked about kind of my first impression. The thing that always stood out to him as the year moved along was, and it's something that I don't know if it came across so much if you're watching on TV versus being there in person, is how much the game revolved around him in terms of what the other teams had to game plan, how he was able to affect the game, even if he didn't have the basketball in his hand, was wild to watch on both ends of the floor. Just a very unique player, and I would tend to agree with probably the best freshman that's ever come through Duke.
David, when you saw Cooper Flagg, and obviously he came there with a lot of hype, and he lived up to that hype in a lot of ways, but was there anything about him or about his game that when you watched him during the season surprised you, or that you feel like, man, I know we talk about the defense or this or that he's able to do, but man, this aspect of his game is something that just doesn't get enough focus and is really, really good?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it does get focused, but I think it's worth repeating of he's a guy that's just as comfortable having 12 assists and 10 points as he is having 35 points. And to me, that is just so rare for someone at that age of knowing what is the right play. He has the ability to take the game over and can shoot it, can get to the rim, has the mid-range game, can do whatever you want to from that respect. But it's a nightmare for other teams defensively, because if you do want to try to take him out of the game with a double team or hedging to his side, he immediately always knows how to make the right play and where to go with the basketball. And that sort of stuff to me is just rare to see. That supreme confidence to know I can go get it done, but also what is the right basketball play in any given moment. You knew it, you heard about it, but it was another thing to see in person, and the consistency of that throughout the course of the season was one of the reasons Duke had such a historic season, was he was able to do that. And you want to talk about a guy that's fun to play with and gets other guys involved. When other guys know that that's going to be the case, it helps the entire product on the offensive end, because everyone's moving more because they know they're going to get the basketball. That to me was very impressive, again, for a kid that turned, he's a man now, but he turned 18 last December.
David, we're talking with David Shumate here, Duke play-by-play voice with Cooper Flagg coming to the Mavericks last night. We were obviously a couple of years ago, Derek Lively ended up here, and he was a guy who I think everybody immediately was blown away by, like, this is such a mature, prepared, grown up, 18, 19-year-old. Like, this is a genuine man at such a young age. Is that sort of the same sort of perspective on Cooper Flagg? Because we hear a lot about the maturity and the competitiveness and stuff like that. Is it similar to the Derek Lively feeling of just, man, this guy's really advanced just as a person?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, Derek has had unfortunately, some personal stuff in his life that has forced him to grow up, as a part of what he's gone through and things like that. But he's very mature. I would say Cooper is a very mature person because of a different set of circumstances. Obviously, his parents have had a huge impact on his life, but also the spotlight that has followed him his entire basketball career and that has continued here at Duke, being able to handle that. People, with all that praise also comes people wanting to nitpick and pick apart anything that possibly goes wrong. You have one misplay here, you have one situation where maybe you slip in a game here, and everyone is dissecting everything you do, and the ability to handle that and not make excuses and go out and take ownership of what's going on. That to me is where he is obviously a very mature young man for being 18 years old, because he's been through, some of that limelight type stuff, some of that spotlight stuff, some of those big moments that you have to go through. And you can just tell in the way he carries himself that stuff doesn't bother him and doesn't eat at him in the way, some who may be getting exposed to that for the first time when they go to the league or what have you, that's a growing thing for them. I think he's kind of already been through that and kind of knows how to compartmentalize that, how to focus on the basketball side of things. And obviously, like I said, his close relationship with his parents and obviously his mom's background in basketball has all helped with that going up. And then obviously his experience here at Duke. So different set of circumstances, but yeah, I would definitely agree that they're both very mature.
David Shumate, Duke play-by-play, join us here 105 through the Fan. What part of his game, if any, is not NBA ready?
Everyone, see, that's what I was talking about. I'm just kidding. Everyone wants to find something that's wrong. I think there's always going to be I saw a quote, and he did this his whole life of playing with kids that were older than him as he was growing up. When you become dominant, you need to be a group older, regardless of how old you happen to be at that moment. But I think for any NBA player, this isn't a critique of Cooper in any way, but when you make the jump to the league and the talent that comes with that, when you're looking at everybody, that's definitely going to be an adjustment, a period for anybody that comes in. So I don't know if it's this isn't NBA ready for him, because at the beginning of the year last year, everyone was saying, okay, his 3-point shot maybe wasn't there of where it needed to be. And then he goes on a tear, in January and February, he's killing it from three. And like I said, he's got the mid-range game. He knows how to play one-on-one. So, I'm sure there's an expert out there that can pick apart this little facet or what have you. I think maybe just the adjustment of there's a lot more bodies on the floor that look like you or similar to you than you're going to see at the collegiate level is going to be an adjustment for anybody. But we saw the progression last year in his first year here at Duke, and I wouldn't be surprised to see something similar in his first year in the league, where once he, gets a month or two and figures it out, he starts to dominate that as well, because he has everything you would want from a skill set standpoint.
One more for you here, David, as we talk with David Shumate, Duke play-by-play voice. Cooper, Kyrie Irving had the ACL tear, and he is going to be out for much of the season. They've been talking about different ways that they might be able to replace Kyrie, whether it's going out and getting a veteran, having somebody on the roster. One of the things that's been suggested is some people are wondering if Cooper Flagg could be sort of like a point forward and maybe control some of the offense early. Do you think his game is at a point right now where he could potentially come right in and start playing a point guard role, essentially, and running the offense for Dallas?
No question. I mean, we're talking about different ways to differentiate him, his basketball IQ, but also just the way he studies the game, his relationship with John Shire, the way they were always talking about schemes and things like that. Look, I've been around it for a while now. It was interesting to watch him throughout the course of the season when they were, practicing running sets, what have you, when, he's getting a blow and he wasn't one of the five that was on the floor, how he's pointing out little intricacies to his teammates. And to me, that speaks to the ability to go out and run the offense, the knowledge of the entirety of the offense, not just his role within it. Obviously, at Duke, he did play that role where he point forward, whatever you want to call it. He could run the offense and bring it up the floor. So he certainly has that skill set, but his knowledge for the game and his understanding of offenses and things that you need to do and where other people need to be. We talked about his passing earlier. I definitely think that's something, if needed, that is a facet of his game. And to me, that would be a no-brainer if needed.
Hey, David, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for popping on.
Appreciate it, fellas.
There's David Shumate, the Duke play-by-play voice, joining us here on Shan and RJ on 105 through the fan of the D&M Leasing Hotline.